My name's Andy, and my mom was a millionaire. Unfortunately, her money became more of a jinx than a blessing. She used to be a humble cleaning lady, until one day, luck smiled on her and she won the lottery. From that moment on, her life began to go down the drain. She always told me that winning the lottery was the worst thing that ever happened to her. It was impossible for her to keep it a secret. So the moment her winnings got announced, every relative, from our cousins to the ones we didn't even know existed, came to visit. They pretended to be so nice and congratulated us, but we knew the real reason why they came. My mom was pressured into giving them money. Some were content, others left while muttering about how stingy my mom was. I made sure to shout at those ones as they left. "You're an entitled brat, and you should be thanking my mom that you got free money! Get a job!" Mom would scold me, but then she'd laugh afterwards. Mom was kind, and she deserved the world. I knew that much. Unfortunately, the world wasn't good to kind people, and lots of people used Mom's kindness to their advantage. My dad was the first one. He quit his job and lived off of Mom's money. And when Mom finally had enough of him loafing around the house and buying stuff that he didn't need, they got into a huge fight. Dad packed his things in the middle of the night and made off with Mom's jewelry and whatever money he could get his hands on. He ran away with just over $100,000. The authorities searched for months, but they never found him. People said he was in some remote mountain in South America with a new family. Mom's parents were hard on her, too. They blamed her for letting Dad go. "Why were you so stingy then? You have millions!" "He was spending $20,000 at the casinos every night. This is money for my son's future. He had a good job and he quit just so he could live like a king."
"And you should have let him. Now your boy doesn't have a dad."
"I'd rather he doesn't have a dad than have one who's a lazy, thieving waste of space." "You really messed up your family."
Oh, speaking of which, we need money to fix the roof."
Mom gave them everything they asked for. I guess all the guilt trip really affected her. And because she stopped giving money to our other relatives, they all started acting as if we didn't exist. And so all we really had was Grandma and Grandpa. Mom started dating again, but it was the same story every time. They would treat her as if she was a queen, but the moment they got what they wanted, they would start treating her like she was garbage. I threw those men out. But what I couldn't fix was my mom's broken heart. It was tough seeing my mom like that. But one day, she hired a gardener. In 1 week, he managed to make those roses that Mom had struggled with for years bloom. Leo was kind and warm to her. He made her laugh. It wasn't a surprise that they fell in love, and Mom bloomed just like the roses. I had never seen her as happy as she was with Leo. But my grandparents had Leo deported. "You're a millionaire, and you're gonna marry a penniless gardener?"
"You should have dinner at our place. I've invited Louie over. You guys should go on a date."
"Louie is my cousin!" "A second cousin, and nobody cares. At least he's not a gardener." Mom and I moved to Costa Rica. We sold our house, and we didn't even bother saying goodbye to our relatives. We were done with them trying to manipulate us for money. Mom hired a private investigator, and we found Leo in a month. They got married, and Mom bought a villa by the sea. I went to school there, and I was surrounded by the same kind of people that Mom had been trying to avoid. Rich, poor, they all wanted to date me because of Mom's money. I did try to go out with some of them, but I got so sick of driving girls to the mall just so they could pressure me to buy them gifts. And even my friends only hung around so they could play with my stuff. Some of them even stole from me. One day, the doorbell rang and we found my dad at the door. He was wearing ragged clothes and looked like he hadn't eaten in days.
"Please, they're after me."
Mom and Leo helped him in, and we fed him, and he rested at the guest house for a week. It turned out Dad had lost everything in the casinos, and he used loan sharks to fund his bad habits. Unfortunately, his habits caught up with him, and he lost everything. Now the loan sharks were looking for him. He owed them $250,000. Mom had since tripled her money thanks to her investments, and even though Dad stole from her, she still pitied him. So she decided to help. But the night before she could even loan him the money, Leo caught him trying to break into the vault. Mom called the loan sharks and we handed Dad over to them. Dad begged and pleaded, but Mom closed the door on his face. When I grew up, I inherited everything. Mom's millions turned into billions after we started our own cafe empire. Mom and Leo moved to a private island and I was left alone in that huge villa. All I had was my dog Bruno. I knew I had to start a family of my own, but I never wanted the things that happened to my mom to happen to me. So, I decided I would look for love in a very unusual way. I hired makeup artists. I had them put prosthetics on me. I was covered in dirt and ash, and I wore clothes that looked like rags. Every day I would sit at a park bench in the middle of the city with Bruno, and I would wait for someone to fall in love with. Most people would pretend not to even see me. There were some who were nice, and anyone who would take their time to put a coin in my cup, I made sure my butler gave them back their money 100-fold. One day, I saw a girl sit on the bench next to mine, and she was the most beautiful girl I had ever seen. I felt my heart skip a beat, and I knew I was in love. I smiled at her, and she smiled awkwardly back. Bruno barked. I stood from my seat, and I sat on the bench next to her. She began to scoot further away. Hello? She smiled again, but then she took her phone out. Hi, girl. Where are you? I'm at the park, and there's this weird hobo trying to talk to me. Can you get here? Quick! I feel like this bum is about to rob me. My heart sank. But when her friend came, my world came to a stop again. Maria was nice to me. She even apologized for the way her friend was behaving around me. She opened her purse and gave me every bit of money she had in there. I told my butler not to follow her. The next day, Maria was back again. She brought me food she'd made herself, and when I ate it, it felt like the heavens opened up. Maria passed by the park every day, even though it wasn't on her route to and from work. In the mornings, she'd bring me coffee, and Bruno would get a treat. And at night, she would walk us to a nearby food truck where she would buy us food, and we'd have dinner together. Bruno loved her. We talked about all sorts of things. She made me laugh, and I made her laugh. She asked how I ended up living on the streets. I kind of felt bad that I had to lie to her. I would offer to take you in, but I live with my parents, and I have 8 siblings. My father would lose his mind if he found out I was talking to you. Oh, and he's allergic to dogs. But honestly, I love spending time with you and Bruno. I just wish the world wasn't so cruel. I smiled at her. It felt warm to know someone could see past my dirty clothes. For 3 months, Maria and I got to know each other. And one night, she held my hand. And she kissed me. That was when I heard her friend scream. Maria! What are you doing? Oh my God, I knew that was you! Why are you kissing the homeless man? Oh my God, it's you! Get away from my friend! Help! Help! Police! A homeless man is trying to take my friend! Lena, stop! Shut up! I kissed him! What? Why? Because I like him. Are you out of your mind? He's a hobo. You can't fall in love with a beggar. He's a penniless bum. Your father can barely afford to raise your sisters, and now you're falling for a charity case? Bruno began barking at Lena, and I couldn't make him stop. It was then that I felt like it all had to end. I signaled to a nearby car, and it stopped in front of us. My butler came out and bowed to me. Both Lena and Maria were so confused. I'm so sorry, Maxwell, but Bruno is being incorrigible. Can you take him for a walk just around the block? And make sure you get him a nice treat on the way. Of course, sir. Shall I fetch you a latte on the way back? That'd be lovely. Maxwell bowed again and went on his merry way. What is happening? I smiled at Lena, and an army of makeup artists and wardrobe specialists came out of a nearby van and crowded around me. I transformed into a prince before their very eyes. Maria covered her mouth in shock. Who are you? I smiled and took Maria's hand. My real name is Andy, but I'm not the homeless guy you knew. I pretended to be penniless to find true love, and I found you. Will you marry me? Maria couldn't contain her excitement, and she kissed me. My makeup artists and the crowd that gathered around us clapped and cheered. Oh, yes, Andy. Of course I will. I kissed her again, and that was when Lena, her friend, fainted.